All right, if you are a business owner, entrepreneur, and you're doing under 30 million a year, this episode is going to be for you, specifically because if, I think my feed, a lot of the things I'm seeing, probably yours too, is just being inundated with things about AI. Mm-hmm. In fact, I just saw this, and what kind of prompted this conversation was I keep seeing, all these people coming online saying, I created 20 or 12 agents and they just replaced $27,000 worth of marketing agency work for us and all in about 20 minutes. And it really got me thinking about, how much of that stuff is actually true? How much additional kind of pressure and stress does it create for business owners? Because I know when I see that, I'm like, is that really possible?
Yeah, like the whole like doom and gloom coming around where AI is going to just automate everything and take care of your business for you. It's a dream. And I don't think we're anywhere close to that.
Yeah, so today we're really going to talk about all this, like what's really real in the space around AI, and what's being oversold, what the hype is, and then, before you start jumping into AI full speed, our last episode was really, how to start using AI if you've never really used it, how to start to prompt engineer it a little bit better. But more importantly, so before you spend the next 3 months chasing, how to create these 12 agents to save $27,000 in marketing spend that you've never actually spent before, let's talk about the hidden tax of AI and all those things related to AI as we kind of set up the next kind of, topics along the way.
Yeah. And with that, we're back with another episode of BizMeds. We are your hosts and neuroscience business coaches. My name is Saad.
And my name is Darris, and we are here to give you the minimum effective dose. So just like everything else business, AI being the other topic of how do you get enough to make a massive difference? And this is coming from, scaling a business, 30 million in under 18 months. This is not, hey, we just magically made up these numbers. This is the business advice, the boring business advice you never knew you needed, but you definitely need, but you're always too busy listening to the other hype.
Exactly.
So, so let's talk a few minutes about the hype machine around AI. What is actually the claims versus actually happening. And it's that whole idea where, I've built all these agents, they've automated all this work, and I now save $27,000 a month in marketing, agency spend. But like, what really are these things doing? Right? Like, what are the key things that they're doing? What are the risks associated with that? What's going on there? Because it's very easy. And I think the one thing that you and I are always very focused on and very clear on is we're not here to jump on a viral trend and just start, regurgitating other people's viral stuff. And for anyone that's actually spent any time kind of investigating this, a lot of the things that go viral are people just recreating other viral things. And here's the little, what's called formula that makes this thing work. And formula. Yeah. Right. And they jump on the latest topic.
Yeah.
They've never spent any time actually doing the thing. And they talk to you about, Claude or ChatGPT. And, if you have experience in that world, very quickly, you're like, that is not real.
Yeah.
So this whole idea, can you create 12 agents? Yes, you can.
Yep. Can you create 12 meaningful agents that start adding value for you today? Very, very, very unlikely. Yeah.
Well, that's, so it's like, oh, I did this all in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's dive into that.
Okay.
That part of it. Okay. What's your proficiency level with working with these AIs, right? And using and creating agents. So is it something that, let's just say one of our listeners who's a business owner who maybe doesn't have a lot of it. There maybe the total experience with AI is, hey, I use ChatGPT to ask some questions and get some better answers with, right? Is not really even great at prompt engineering. Are they going to be able to in 20 minutes create these 12 agents that do all this work?
Nope. You still need to have a bit of an understanding on the basics and what it is that you're trying to actually solve.
Yeah.
And then there's that other layer in there to understand how accurate it's going to be. And what I'm finding, and I'm sure like you probably feel the same way, it can get you maybe 70 to 80% of the way there. It's the meaningful work still is the 20%. The 80% is the easy part that gets you to the start line.
Yeah. It's what's the 20% that removes the 80% of the work.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's that leverage piece that we keep talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point is there's just so much more to these things that they become, it's the hype that we have such a problem with, that these things continue, like talk about how quickly, they can create these things. Well, what they don't show you or they don't talk about is the hours and hours and hours. And we're probably talking tens to hundreds of hours learning these systems. So there is a proficiency tax that you have to pay in order to be skilled enough to know how to work with these. It's not like you can just sit down your computer one day and like, oh, I'm going to create an agent. There's so much more to that. Mm-hmm. And this also makes me think about the reason why this kind of got to me was they kept talking about OpenClaw. Mm-hmm. If you use OpenClaw and Claude AI, you can just blow out your system. I'm like, okay, well, hold on a second. What does that really mean? Like, what about security measures? Like, what about actual guardrails on your system? So if you don't have any idea what OpenClaw is, like, go do a little bit of research on it. We're not going to, but it's basically like you can have a natively hosted AI that has access to, like, full access to your computer on your system, right? So I don't know about you, but that to me doesn't seem like just a great idea with someone with very little know-how or what they're getting into, to then listen to someone saying, oh, just get OpenClaw and Claude and you can just revolutionize your life. That's sensationalism. I get it because it, captures attention, but if you're not aware and a little bit of research into the security risks that all the big, like Microsoft and all of them have talked about, and I've put out papers on the risks of running something like OpenClaw on your system without any guardrails or any know-how, could be devastating. Like your whole system could be taken over maliciously. There's things like there's repositories. So like GitHub and all these things where other coders, developers will store things and they make them publicly available. Right. Well, guess what? A lot of those libraries are not trusted and there's malicious code inserted in those. And if you don't know that, you're going to now put that in your system. You think, oh, this is a great thing. And suddenly, boom, you have been hacked, you've been exposed, you've been compromised without you really knowing what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And that's the caution I give everybody. Yeah. There is a lot of cool use cases and a lot of cool little things that you can do with it. So I'm going to share an example of like somebody in my circle that recently just did something cool with that OpenClaw and Claude, where they're too lazy to go get daily news of what's happening. They're too lazy to tell you like what's happening in your city, and like figuring out what their calendar says for the day. So they created a flow between Claude and OpenClaw, and basically every morning at 7 a.m. gets a text of like highlights of all the important news that he missed, then all the tasks he needs to get done for the day, and all of the meetings that he has. So that's like a cool use case of like somebody using that.
Yeah.
Most of us don't have a lot of information on our computers. So giving that all of your access and like giving it the ability to do whatever the heck you want it to in the future for somebody that has no technical experience is very risky, to your point. Like, because all it takes is one person to get access to that, and it's not that hard to do it.
Yeah. It could be a keystroke logger.
Yeah.
Right. And then, guess what? You're going into your whatever social media account. You got to type in your password.
Yeah.
Boom, logged. Or you have to go to your bank, right? Most people do online banking. It's logged your thing. Yeah. I'm not saying it's going to happen in all cases, but like the risk that it's there, if you don't know what you're doing, you're compromising yourself so far beyond because you've been led down this path to believe that, oh my God, you just need these two things and it can dramatically change everything. And what we lose is the critical thought behind like what we're actually trying to solve.
Yeah.
And this brings us back to like fundamental frameworks that we talk about of thinking of, are we solving the right problem and are we solving it the right way? Or are we just being caught up on all the dopamine and the hype around, AI and what it could do and possibly do. Right. And we kind of get caught up in it could do this and this. And I've been guilty of that. Right. I did a project where I was working with some people and they were like, hey, we want to create this simple ROI calculator. Right. It's, you fill in this information and it will make some basic assumptions and it'll basically, very simple math. Here's how long based on your time and your investment and what you would be investing, like what your ROI is and what your payback is in months. And so of course, then I'm like, oh, well, I immediately go to overthink. I'm like, oh, how can we make this really slick and make it easy? Well, we can use a Google Map API. Someone just types in their address and it would bring up their property information. And because this is using autonomous vehicles to do maintenance work and stuff like that, right? And so if you didn't know the size of your property, well, then the Google API would have a relatively good understanding. There's a lot of like really cool open source databases on property sizes and stuff like that. So you type in your address, it would automatically pull in the property size you have. You would estimate kind of like what your main building space is, subtract that from the total, and you would have a plot of land that you would be performing maintenance on. And then it would like automate all these things, and then you could. This is like going down the rabbit hole. And it's like, okay, hold on. Like, let's strip it down. Let's look at basic functionality first. Let's just strip it down to say, okay, cool. Let's just have someone type in the size of the property, how they perform their maintenance, what kind of time, and if they do it by themselves, how much time and expenses do they have over the course of a year, or if they hire it out, how often do they visit, what's the average cost, things like that. Boom. And let's just make a pretty good assumption and document what those assumptions are to have a really good calculator. And then you can start from there to say, okay, this is a really simple way. You can now automate this to someone fills that out. They put their name and email in. They get directed to the page with their results immediately. It then sends them the results via email, right? So that they can follow up. But on the back end, you can tag that potential person to a specific, like based on the property size and things like that and other criteria, you can start to lead score. So how to then prioritize when you want to follow up with that person, right? If they're looking for some feedback on it, like, oh, cool, you have this property. Tell me about that more. And that's where you can start to get some of the automation. But if you don't know, like, kind of what you're trying to do, you can be like me and try to oversolve something. And then be like, oh, hold on. Go back to the basics of, are you solving the right problem the right way?
Yeah. And that's the thing I'm noticing a lot of it with most businesses is they're getting into, or they're trying to implement AI just for the sake of implementing AI.
Yeah.
And there's no rhyme or reason, and there's nothing that, again, talking about ROI, like there's nothing that's coming out of it. It's just doing something for the sake of doing it.
Yeah. So let's talk about, okay, so are we saying you can't use AI? No. What are we saying? We're saying that AI can be used if you have a better kind of framework to understanding where you can leverage it most, right? So and we've talked about this, we have narrowed down kind of like 3 major buckets. So for you, like for what we've talked about, like with that, the first bucket is really
using it as a tool.
As a tool, right? A tool, and also it kind of more broadly sits in that bucket of data problems. Right? Data problems and solutioning, right? So it's data problems, but data systems. So everything kind of related to data. You can leverage AI to, again, create better data systems, better data architecture and communications to aggregate data, put it in to have meaningful reporting, all that stuff. Like that's where AI is exceptionally great. The other 2 buckets are maybe not as easy to, you wouldn't use AI directly in it. So, and one of those is judgment calls. So that's really around like strategy, prioritization, hiring people, pricing, positioning. Like you can use AI to get better historical data on your pricing, competitive pricing, right? Like you can use it for the leverage part of it, but you ultimately have to make decisions around that, right? So like making judgment call, hiring people. Like an AI is not going to be able to sit in the room and hire someone. You might use an AI kind of sorter to like, I have all these applications. Here's my guardrails for A, B, C, or D level kind of people, how they meet kind of the requirements that we need and how well their resumes may or may not line up with that. Like we can support it with a system, but it's not going to help you understand whether or not you want to hire that person. And the last bucket is really around a relationship and trust. And I think this is a big one where people are at risk. Like these two buckets are where people try to misappropriately use AI when they shouldn't be, or they try to absolve themselves or abdicate responsibility to AI to making all these decisions. And you can't use AI to build, or to replace relationship and trust. You're not going to build a better client relationship with AI. You can use AI to maybe make your onboarding, to build a better onboarding system and flow and follow up so it feels like a really good thing and you improve the relationship or that trust overall, but it doesn't replace that inner relationship and building that culture or, the relationship and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. To your point, like it can do the non-value add task for you, and then you can still run it through. And again, quickly use a gym example because it's been a little while. If you had something that tracked all your macros, all your workouts and everything, and then told you what to do the next day, would you or would you not just be able to do and execute better? Right?
Yeah.
Like that's how I envision how I envision AI being like valuable to us.
Yeah.
And then back to your point, like you still need to make the judgment call on like AI can't tell if your shoulder's not feeling good that day.
Yeah.
You need to make that judgment call and figure out like what can you supplement instead, and then ask AI to help you supplement that. Yeah.
It also can't tell you what your perceived effort is.
Yeah.
Right. It can't tell if you are truly approaching failure or not.
Yeah.
Like that's perception. That's all, it doesn't replace that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And going back to like, the AI is really great. You can have one-off acceleration. So you can do some really great research, right? You can help maybe do this thing that you were struggling with. And it has way more context. It's able to do deep research really quickly and help give you more perspective. And then there's also the systematic automation of things. And all those kind of, the underlying thing with, even automating things is are you automating the right thing? Are you getting the 20% that gives you the 80% benefit in the right area? That's one, reducing cognitive load, reducing operational drag, reclaiming resources, time, all those things to help you get what? Better data.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, CRM, we talked about CRM in the last episode, and why you might want to have or consider having a CRM is not because of having fucking CRM. It's the data, the analysis that you're able to get from the data that it gets. The problem with it is the adoption of CRMs is absolutely abysmal because they're cumbersome. It's manual. It's a lot of work. And you're like, well, you know what? I just spent all day on the phone closing business. I don't want to sit here for another 2 hours. So, okay. Or I don't want to, as a business owner or sales manager or whoever it is, like, I don't want to sit here and like create this thing because it's a lot of fucking work. Yeah. Okay, well, how can we leverage AI to help us? Or I can feed it all the context. Here's my business. Here's what my pipeline stages look like. Cool. Like, what other options do I have to make this really clean? Like, what should I be looking at for lead sources? Like, what's going to give me the maximum amount of KPI or being able to track these KPIs to tell me where my business is going? And then how do I sustain that with better automation or tools or maybe an agent that I can't listen in to my sales call, but if I'm recording my sales call as I should be, because I want to go back and review it to get better, right? Can I upload that transcript and then have the AI automatically update that line in the CRM and update that client or that prospect or whoever it is and give it the additional information I need so that I'm not spending time? Or can I send a voice note to it, giving it a summary of all the major things that I need it to do? Much easier than sending out your keyboard hammering away for another hour at the end of the day.
Yeah. Just a quick wrap up on that comment. You can connect Claude directly to HubSpot.
Yes.
And I use it all the time.
Yeah. Right. And then it's like, hey, then how do we make it even better? Right. Again, you can, send it a voice note and then boom, kicks it off and it does all the things that you need it to do. There's so many ways you can leverage it that gives you the opportunity to get the benefit of it, which is we go back to the scaling playbook, which is better data allows you to make better decisions. So you can use AI, but you're probably, as a business owner under 30 million, like you're not going to spend 20 minutes to build 12 agents to save you $27,000 a month in marketing agency costs. Yeah. You're not going to do it.
Exactly.
Right? Because first and most, you don't even know if that's your problem. Mm-hmm. And then we talk about the data foundation, right? So it's not only can it automate work, but it can also help you think about how do you structure your data in a way that's then connected so you get better and you're able to make better and better decisions, right? Then you can have people visualize that a little bit better. Mm-hmm. It's very simple stuff.
Exactly.
Let's see. I think we'll just kind of like the last part of this is, okay, so what do you actually do? Like, how do you make this work for you? And it's really around, one, it's stop chasing the tools. It's around the mental frameworks around where can you leverage it first and foremost, right? So just because someone says you can use OpenClaw and Claude to create all these agents doesn't mean that you should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What is it going to do for you first?
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. So are you solving the right problem the right way? So just because you can create these agents, but maybe that's not your major constraint. Mm-hmm. So what is the point of creating all these agents for marketing that we haven't even touched on the risks of like some of those ones, right? So if you have that many agents and they're basically autonomous, you have a high risk of it introducing a lot of hallucinations into that.
Exactly.
You still need human oversight. You still need to have guardrails and all these things. But if you, as someone who's new to it, think you're in 20 minutes, you're going to create 27 agents or 12 agents that's going to do all this autonomous work. Mm-hmm. Like there's a ton of things that you don't even realize are going to happen. And you'd be like, well, this sucks because it's giving me a whole pile of garbage because you don't know any better.
Yep. You
don't know all the guardrails and frameworks you have to have in place to support that. Right. And if it's doing just a lot of just repetitive stuff, that's like, okay, cool. You might just be getting a lot of volume, but it might not be very good quality. So we want to stop chasing the tools. We want to make sure we're solving the right problem. And then that mental framework is around, okay, is this a data problem? Is this a judgment problem? Is this a relationship and trust problem? Like those are the three buckets that we need to start evaluating the constraints on. And then the next stage is pay the proficiency tax. Like you have to understand that there's a skill tax involved. In order to develop that skill, you have to pay the tax of not knowing and going through the iterations. Mm-hmm. Like you and I leverage AI very regularly. But you remember in the early days when we were first prompting?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's horrible.
It's terrible. And now much better. As we go to our last episode, it's, that understanding what kind of context to give a ChatGPT or Claude is really important, but you don't get that just out of the box. You have to play with it multiple times. So that's the proficiency tax that you have to pay. Mm-hmm. And so it's less about the specific tool. It's about understanding AI as a whole. And if you do land on a tool, okay, you're going to have to pay the proficiency tax.
Exactly.
The great thing is most of the AIs now are very similar in how they take prompts. So that can leverage one to the other. Yeah. And the other thing is, with all of these things, we go back to our scaling playbook, which is great data helps you create better decisions or make better decisions. So use it to create better data foundations. And most importantly, be skeptical.
Yep. Don't just take it for what you see out there.
Yeah. Even this, like what we're telling you, like go and do some research and verify it. Right. But if you want to be one of the people that goes and be like, oh, this guy in a 12-second clip told me I could, save $27,000 a month, in agency spend by creating 12 agents. Mm-hmm. Fill your boots.
Yep.
Fill your boots.
Go ahead, try it, find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you don't,
when you don't,
yeah,
don't be surprised because we told you so. And again, this runs counter. We understand this runs counter to a lot of things that are being circulated online about AI.
yeah,
And are we disagreeing that AI can make a lot of improvements?
no,
Are we skeptical of the wide claims that a lot of people say that, what they're doing with their AI?
yes,
Absolutely. Why? Is because we use it every day, right? And it's less about that, and it's more about solving the right problem, solving the right constraint, solving it the right way, and leveraging AI the proper way, and making sure you have a good, strong mental framework to identify how you should be leveraging it and where you can't leverage it well and where you can. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think this is a very loaded podcast in terms of like how we have utilized AI and like what the value is for for most of the people that we work with and how to help them with it. So it's a tool that's going to continue getting better, and it's only going to get better. So getting ahead of it and figuring out like where your value lies for you is the thing that you need to do the homework on.
Yeah.
And assuming like just because it worked, and we've talked about this several times in our podcasts across like the last couple years, don't assume just because it's working for somebody else, it's going to work exactly the same way for you. Use it as a learning step, but don't just copy paste and expect to save $27,000. So
what? That's it. I quit. Yeah. And so what other, I guess, risks are you seeing out there with people using AI?
We talked about hallucinations a little bit. We talked about how most people aren't aware of like the implications and what happens when you get access. When you give the AI agents like all access to your entire computer without having the skill set. I think the other thing that I notice a lot more of lately is the lack of understanding the art of possible. Like there are several different ways you can use it, but if you're looking for it to just automate everything for you, I don't think it's there. I think if you use it to help you do more with what you already have, you can absolutely crush out like some timelines and get it to where you want it to be.
Yeah. I view it as, and then we've had the conversation, a few of us, is really around, you can reduce a lot of cognitive load with it and operational drag simply by, those really repetitive manual tasks. Like you can automate a lot of those things, right? So then you're spending less time on very low non-value work. And so it frees up that resources, whether it's money, whether it's time, whether it's mental energy, all those, or all combination of all those things. So you get all of that back.
Yeah.
And the thing that I see a lot of businesses do is they think they're solving the problem is hiring more people.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, that's a whole other challenge when they talk about hiring people, because they just hire people terribly. But it just makes the problem much worse because they don't ever actually solve the underlying problem. Most people just bring in their kind of limited skill set because they're not really versed or forward thinking to the art of possible. Yeah. So they just keep doing the same thing over and over, and they create more operational drag. They make things more complicated. They don't simplify things. They just make things more complicated. And we wonder why then, we have all these people, but nothing's getting better.
Yeah.
And then you potentially run where you have too many people, and then you have to cut the people, but the root cause never gets solved, right? We have just a lot of manual rework and manual moving of things. So it's like we can help. Ideally, you want to remove as much of that as possible, because if I'm just copying from here and I'm putting it over there, that's a useless step.
Yeah.
Right? Where we now have the technology available to move those things more seamlessly, and what is there. And if we trust that, then over here, it's the exact same thing. I'm removing that possibility that I've changed something in the middle, right? And with that, we can then speed up condense the time frames that we have that information, and we now reclaimed all of that energy and resources around it, we can make better decisions. Yeah. So I think that's where I see a lot of like issues that we're trying to address, right? Like the reason we're talking about that is because like hiring more people is not always the solution, right? There's art of possible. And sometimes using an AI, you can actually give it enough context to challenge your thinking. Say, I'm thinking about this way, but what other ways could this be addressed that I'm not thinking of? Or, you know, what other tools could be? Because I think this way, this in my brain, this is how I've always done it, or this is what I, based on my limited understanding of what's truly available out there. Like this process allowed me to make the switch from using Notion to move into Coda. And so, but I didn't know Coda even existed. That whole, okay, this is the way I'm doing it. Oh, here's another thing that is very similar. You can port it over very easily, but it has a lot more functionality that you would need. I'm like, fantastic. Okay, great. Yeah. That to me is a good leverage piece to move in, and goes back to that whole thinking pattern of like, we trying to learn, or we're just trying to like have it reaffirm our current thinking? Yeah. Anyway, but that's a lot. So I think in the next little bit here, we're going to do another episode probably in the near future around, okay, so we've talked about AI, how to maybe prompt it better. We've talked about a lot of the hype. What can AI do? Where we're not really convinced that it can do it, but how to think through how you can be using AI better to solve the right problems the right way. And then maybe in an episode coming up soon, we'll talk about specific constraints at different levels in business, and where specifically you could leverage AI and where you wouldn't want to. Yeah. So with that, everyone, we are BizMeds. We're your neuroscience business coaches. I'm Darris.
My name is Saad.
And hopefully you got the minimum effective dose today to stop spending time on AI where it's not going to help you, and to spend the time where it is going to help you and help you condense time frames and give you the 20% that solves 80% of your problems. So with that, I want to thank you for joining us. And to our moms, Mom, thank you. Saad's mom, love you. Thank you so much for joining us. And for everyone who's been with us and continues to tune in and listen. And for everyone new, thank you so much. And remember, you're just one day away from the life you've always dreamed about. We're going to see you in the next episode.